Hello Year 9. Today we are looking at what were the arguments for and against women having the vote. So you need to make sure that you have written that title at the beginning of your work in your pink book or on whatever paper you are working on. The first thing that I would like you to do is to have a think about what you can remember about the role of women in society at the beginning of the 20th century. So pause here, jot down your ideas, and then come back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully you talked about perhaps the fact that women were seen as a lesser part of society, that their main role was seen as being in the home. You might have talked about the angel in the house that we've looked at in previous lessons. What you might also have included is the fact that women were actually starting to be more daring and they were starting to push against those ideas about them. So today, for some of us, this is going to be new learning, and for some of us, this is going to be a review. You need to make sure that all of your work is handed in to your teacher, whether that's a picture or whether you upload it or email it to your teacher. So that could be myself, Mr. Porter, or Mr. Rowe. So the first thing we're going to look at today is these key words. They are suffrage, which means the right to vote. So when you're thinking about the suffragettes or the suffragists, which we will come to look at, that's where that term comes from. So suffrage means the right to vote. Election is the act of choosing or voting for a leader. So democracies have elections, and we have general elections to vote for our government that's going to come in, and local elections to vote for our council. So if you could make sure that you have those two words written down, pause and then come back to the video. So your first task today is to have a look at the attached table. So this is attached as a PDF on your Satchel 1. And if you can print this out, then please do. If you can't, then you might like to make a table, so to have one side with arguments for the right to vote and one side with arguments against the right to vote, and then just jot down those ideas in the appropriate column. But if you can print it out, then I would like you please to colour code the attached table to see what the arguments were for and against women. So for example, this first one, men and women have different interests and responsibilities. Women are homemakers and mothers. It is the role of men to debate and make difficult decisions. That one would be an argument against women having the right to vote. So remember, these aren't what you think. These are what people at the time thought. Okay, so that's your first task. I'd like you to pause here, complete that task, and then come back to the video. Okay, so hopefully you have done that and you've got some good ideas for either side, which arguments there would be for the right to vote and which arguments there would be against the right to vote. Your next task now is, using that knowledge, I would like you to write a speech. Now you can pick to write either from the perspective of someone arguing for suffrage, so someone arguing that women should have the right to vote, or someone arguing against suffrage, so someone arguing that women shouldn't have the right to vote. You can use the sentence starters here, but you absolutely don't have to. You can come up with it yourself, and you should use some of the ideas in here. Really advanced speeches are going to perhaps use some of the other side of the argument to argue against. So if I was arguing for the right to vote, I might actually use some of the arguments against the right to vote and talk about how stupid they are and things like that. Remember that a speech is meant to persuade someone, so you need to think about your English skills and how you might write persuasively. So complete that, pause here, and then come back to the video once you're done. Okay, so your final task today is going to be to look at the two different sources that I'm going to show you now, and then just to answer some questions for these sources. So we're going to reinforce our understanding of arguments for and against the right to vote by looking at some propaganda for each of the sides. So the first one you're going to look at is this picture source here. It says what a woman may be and yet not have the vote. So you've got all these things here: a mayor, a nurse, a mother, a doctor or a teacher, a factory hand, and then what a man may have been and yet not lose the vote. So you've got a convict, a lunatic, a proprietor of slaves, so that means someone who owns slaves, someone who's unfit for service, or a drunkard. Your next source is this one, and it says what will men wear when women wear, and then it's got a picture of some trousers. So your task is to answer these 3 questions for each of those sources. So describe what you can see in the source. So tell me, if I was blind and I couldn't see the source, what would you tell me about it to help me to understand what it has in it? I then want you to tell me what is the message of the source. So what do you think that means? You've told me what it shows you. What do you think that means? What is it trying to say? And I'd like you please to try and support your argument with details from the source. So if you think it is saying a particular thing, what in the source makes you think that it's saying that? And then finally, I want you to have a think about who you think might have created those sources and why. Now remember that you should be answering in full sentences for all of your questions. If you have a printer at home and you wanted to print these sources out and annotate them, then that would be absolutely brilliant if you could do that as well. If you finished that work today and you've still got a bit of time left, or you'd like to really push yourself, then what you can do is create your own poster, look back at the arguments for and against suffrage, and you could create a poster either for or against female suffrage using some of those arguments. So once you've completed all of your work today, if you could make sure that you show evidence to your teacher that you have completed that work, so whether it's taking a picture of your work, or if you've done it on the computer, if you upload that to Show My Homework and send it to your teacher, or email it to them, then we can make sure that we can give you some feedback on it. Good luck. Thank you.